in the dim light of an 18th century bedroom, a man woke up drenched in a cold, paralyzing sweat. He had just witnessed a performance that no mortal ear was ever meant to hear. Giuseppe Tartini, one of the greatest violinists to ever live, claimed he had made a pact with the devil himself. This was not a mere metaphor for talent, but a literal description of a midnight encounter that changed music forever. The result of this infernal meeting was the Violin Sonata in G minor, better known to history as the Devil's Trill. For centuries, musicians and historians have whispered about the dark origins of this specific composition. Is it possible that a melody can be so complex and haunting that its source must be supernatural? Tartini himself spent the rest of his life in a state of profound frustration, trying to capture what he heard that night. He claimed that the music he eventually wrote was a mere shadow of the devil's actual performance. Yet, even this shadow remains one of the most technically demanding and eerie pieces in the entire violin repertoire. The story begins in the year 1713, a time when the line between science and the occult was often blurred. Tartini was a man of intense passion and discipline, a scholar who sought perfection in every vibration of his strings. According to his own accounts, he fell into a deep sleep and dreamt that he had surrendered his soul to Satan. In the dream, the devil became his servant, anticipating his every wish and executing his every command with terrifying precision. To test the abilities of his new infernal servant, Tartini handed him his violin to see if he could play a simple tune. What happened next was a sonic explosion that defied the laws of physics and the limits of human anatomy. The devil began to play a sonata so beautiful, so singular, and so difficult that it surpassed the boldest flights of human imagination. Tartini described being struck with such amazement and delight that he felt his breath leave his body. The music featured a series of trills, rapid alternations between two notes that seemed to happen simultaneously with a complex melody. When Tartini finally woke up, he grabbed his violin and parchment, desperate to record the echoes of the demon's song. He succeeded in writing down the G minor sonata, but he was never satisfied with the result. He famously said that he would have broken his violin and abandoned music forever if he had any other way to support himself. He believed that the gap between his mortal composition and the devil's music was an unbridgeable chasm. This leads us to the central mystery that has haunted musicologists for over 300 years. How could a human mind conceive of the double-stop trill at a time when such techniques were virtually non-existent? The devil's trill requires the player to execute a trill on one string while simultaneously playing a complex melody on another. To the listener, it sounds as if two violins are playing at once, woven together in a frantic, supernatural dance. The physical strain on the violinist's hand is immense, leading many to believe the piece is physically cursed. Legend says that Tartini's hand was permanently altered by the effort of trying to replicate the devil's speed. Some even whispered that he had a sixth finger, or that his joints were loosened by demonic intervention. In the world of cash cow mysteries, stories of pacts with the devil are a recurring theme for a reason. From Robert Johnson at the Crossroads to Niccolò Paganini's supposed deal with the shadows, the pattern is undeniable. But Tartini was the first to document it with such terrifying sincerity and clinical detail. He didn't seek fame from the story. In fact, he seemed genuinely haunted by the inadequacy of his own talent. The sonata itself has a peculiar psychological effect on both the performer and the audience. It begins with a slow, melancholic movement that feels like a funeral march through a misty graveyard. But as the piece progresses, the tempo quickens and the technical demands escalate into a fever dream of sound. The famous trill section feels like a descent into madness, a sonic representation of a soul being pulled into the abyss. Why does this music continue to unsettle us in the 21st century? Perhaps it is because Tartini tapped into a frequency that resonates with the darkest corners of the human psyche. Skeptics argue that Tartini simply had a vivid dream fueled by his own obsessive practice and creative genius. They suggest that the devil was merely his own subconscious pushing the boundaries of what he thought was possible. But this explanation fails to account for the sheer visceral reaction that people have when hearing the piece played live. There is a tension in the room, a sense that something dangerous is being summoned through the vibration of the wood and catgut. If you look closely at the original manuscripts, the notations seem frantic, as if the ink was struggling to keep up with the memory. The architecture of the sonata is unlike anything else from the Baroque period. It lacks the mathematical balance of Bach or the sunny clarity of Vivaldi. Instead, it is jagged, unpredictable, and filled with a longing that feels almost painful to witness. Many modern violinists refuse to play the piece without a long period of spiritual and physical preparation. They speak of a presence that enters the concert hall when the final movement begins. Is it possible that the music acts as a portal, a bridge between our world and the realm where Tartini met his master? The mystery of Tartini's dream is a reminder that art often comes from places we cannot fully explain or control. We like to think of composers as architects of sound, carefully planning every note with logic and reason. But Tartini's story suggests that the greatest works of art are often received rather than created. They are gifts, or curses, from a source that exists outside of our linear understanding of time and space. The Devil's Trill remains a staple of the violin repertoire, a mountain that every virtuoso feels compelled to climb. Yet every time it is performed, the shadow of that 1713 dream hangs over the stage. We are reminded of the price of perfection and the danger of seeking knowledge that belongs to the gods or the demons. Tartini died in 1770, but his encounter with the devil lives on in every vibration of his G minor sonata. He left behind a legacy of mystery that has outlasted empires and artistic movements. For a cash cow channel, this story is a goldmine of psychological intrigue and historical drama. It allows us to question the nature of genius and the limits of human capability. Was Tartini a madman, a liar, or the most honest man in the history of music? If we listen closely to the trills, we might just hear the answer for ourselves. The music doesn't just entertain. It warns us about the cost of staring too long into the darkness. It tells us that some melodies are so beautiful they can only be paid for with a soul. Even today, as we use artificial intelligence and advanced technology to analyze music, the Devil's Trill remains an anomaly. Its complexity is a challenge to the idea that human progress is a steady, upward climb. Instead, it suggests that brilliance can strike like lightning, leaving a scorched path of genius in its wake. Tartini's frustration is the frustration of every artist who has ever glimpsed the sublime and failed to bring it back whole. He lived for 57 years after that dream, and yet he never heard that music again. He spent his final days in silence, perhaps still listening for the echoes of that violin in the corners of his room. When you play this video for your audience, you aren't just telling a ghost story, you are exploring the human condition. You are showing them that the most powerful mysteries are the ones that we carry inside our own minds. The Violin Sonata in G minor is a monument to a night that never ended for Giuseppe Tartini. It is a testament to the power of the dream and the reality of the nightmare. As the final notes of the sonata fade into silence, we are left with a chilling question. If the devil appeared to you tonight and offered you the world's greatest secret, would you take the violin, or would you choose to stay in the safety of the silence, knowing that some songs are better left unplayed? The mystery of the Devil's Trill is a story of ambition, terror, and the eternal search for beauty. It is the perfect subject for those who seek to understand the darker side of the human creative spirit. Let the trills haunt your sleep, just as they haunted the man who first brought them into our world. This is the legacy of Tartini, the man who played with fire and left us the ashes of a demonic masterpiece. The world of music will never be the same as long as this sonata exists to challenge our souls. The devil may have claimed Tartini's spirit, but the music belongs to the ages. Listen carefully, and you might just hear the scratching of a quill on parchment in a room 300 years away. The mystery is alive, the music is playing, and the devil is always waiting for the next virtuoso. The curtain falls on the 18th century, but the trills of G minor echo into eternity. This is the story of the music that was too perfect for this world. This is the mystery of Tartini's devil.